Well, here on AM Quincy, this election year, we've invited all of the candidates on the November 7th ballot to stop by and tell us a little bit about their campaign and their priorities. And we are so pleased to welcome for re-election to the Quincy School Committee, Frank Santoro is joining us for this program. Frank, great to see you.
Nice to see you, Joe. Nice to be back.
It's good to have you back.
Yeah.
Vice Chair, right?
Vice Chair,
of the
yeah.
School Committee.
It's been a nice summer, although we've had a few things to deal with over the summer. But yeah, enjoy the little quiet that's happening.
Yeah.
Because it's about to start again.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, which I don't mind.
You are up for re-election for it's 4-year term.
It's
right?
a 4-year term.
Yeah. When were you first elected?
You know, I was elected way back in the late 80s when I was teaching in Brookline.
Oh.
And I served 8 years then, a couple of years as vice chair. And then when I came back to Quincy to be the principal at Central, of course, I couldn't sit on the school committee, so I left. And then rejoined 4 years ago after I retired from the Quincy Public Schools.
Oh, okay, as principal of Quincy High
As
School.
principal of Quincy High.
Okay, and has it been what you thought it would be?
Yeah, I'm actually enjoying it. I sit on many boards, and I'm enjoying the partnership I have between the boards and the school system. I sit on the Board of Governors at Quincy College, and that allows me to enhance the college and vice versa, back and forth. We have a great program called Early College, where kids are taking advantage of it at Quincy College at both our high schools. I sit on the Quincy Asian Resource Board of Directors, soon to be chairman of the board, and again, the immigrant families that are coming into our city, it's nice to have a tie to the school system because many of them have children. So I'm enjoying that tie as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
So this past 4 years, what would you say have been some of the main priorities?
Yeah, well, obviously the pandemic, you know.
Which pretty much all of your term.
Yeah,
this
right.
past term,
And you know,
yeah.
I take great pride in being part of the 7 people that carried the school system on the school committee side, because we worked very hard at making sure everybody was safe, first of all, and everybody was learning. And by everybody, I mean students as well as staff. You know, to have healthy buildings where people felt safe sending their children was very important. And so it took a lot of meeting time, a lot of our time to make sure ventilation issues were taken care of. And then the mayor was kind to donate a lot of money towards the Chromebooks so that every child was prepared. A lot of professional development on our hardworking teachers that had to teach in a different way. So it kept all of us very busy through those 4 years. Happy to say that we came through it. And as you sit at graduation and you look and see where the kids end off going, it's proof that the system did well. And I was happy to be a part of that and make sure everybody was safe and everybody was learning.
Yeah, as I recall, during the height of the pandemic, the school committee was meeting at least once a week.
Yes, we were.
If not more. Yeah.
With our health department, making sure we were following their guidance. And it was not an easy time. Parents were unhappy. The kids weren't in school. Some wanted them to stay out longer. The mask issue. You know, it was a difficult time. And happy to say that we came through okay. Not that I would like to do this ever again,
Right.
but it took a lot of our time. Between the pandemic and negotiating, you know, we have all those unions we have to negotiate with. We're still not finalized with our Teamsters, but the teacher negotiations took a lot of time. I sat on that negotiating team. Happy to say that we've come to resolution, and that took a great deal of our time as well.
Yeah.
But came out with some good things. The teachers get some great benefits. The school system got a good benefit by parents now can look and see their children's grade. The teachers are opening up their grade books to our parents. Instead, you would have to wait till that midterm and to see how your child was doing.
Oh, I see.
Now they can do it on a regular basis.
Oh, this is the Aspen program?
Yes, I mean, that's a great benefit to parents. So we're happy to see that as well.
Okay. So going forward, Frank, what would be your priorities for
Yeah,
a new
going
term?
forward,
Yeah.
you know, when you sit back and think, we could be as busy as today, as we've learned recently that Eastern Nazarene is taking on some immigrant families from Haiti, I believe. And to the school system, that means how many children and where are those children going to go? And we're in the process right now as we speak today to figure out the answers to those questions because those kids need an education as well. So that's going to be something that's pretty immediate. Right before we broke, we did a safety survey in all our buildings. So there are some issues that we need to address within those buildings, whether it's protocol for safety, routines, as well as equipment. We're addressing those now, school by school. So those are issues that are very recent and upfront. Question?
There was an issue at Central, of course, with the
Yeah.
student bringing the gun to
Yeah,
school.
yeah, and a student who, when I was principal at Quincy High School, I used to meet regularly with the kids, because you got to tell kids that if you do this, this is going to happen.
Consequences for your
There are
actions,
consequences,
yeah.
and the child didn't mean to do anything vicious, but of course you have to pay attention to the rules.
Right.
And he's made a big mistake, the child, and it's too bad, because a bright child, and he has to face these consequences of doing something where maybe if we were up front ahead of time and made sure the kids understood the consequences for that action.
Okay.
But yeah.
So what is the consequence?
Well, I personally can't talk about the
Okay.
child, but you can be sure that we follow the protocols within our rights and responsibilities.
Okay.
So
So going forward, how do you prevent that from happening?
yeah, well,
again?
like I said, we will be probably adjusting our protocols for what we do for safety. Make sure they're up to date. Make sure that the buildings are the safest they can be, and there are some things that we need to do for that. Entryways, ways to get in, ways to get out.
Yeah.
Um, you
Metal
know,
detectors?
well, I don't know if we're there yet,
Okay.
but certainly it's something that we would talk about.
Discuss,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's in our future discussions.
Okay.
So besides the families and the safety survey, I'd like to work with the QEA. This came out during negotiations of establishing a sick bank for our
Yes.
teachers.
Yep.
And I would like to try to do that with the teachers. I want to work in a partnership where we could meet in subcommittee and have their input as well.
Okay.
That's coming up. We've hired, as you know, a new EDI coordinator that sits on the superintendent's leadership team, Kim Conley. And we need to hire a staff that's more reflective of our student population. We currently have a majority of Asian students within our school system. And it's nice for kids to see that there are teachers just like they, and as well as our curriculum. We're trying to make sure that our curriculum aligns to what our children are. And also, when you think about hiring someone or aligning the curriculum, I had in the back of my mind the possibilities of a Chinese immersion school at one of the elementary levels.
Oh, really? Okay.
Nothing definite, but something we're thinking
Yeah.
about having superintendent's team look at that.
Okay, well, as you know, Milton Public Schools have had a French immersion
That's
program
correct.
for years.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
Sure.
And so
something
there are
like
pros
that.
and cons.
Okay.
But I would at least like it studied and have some options presented to us as a school
Interesting.
committee. Yeah.
Okay.
We have our two buildings up and planning. The De Cristofaro building's ready to open soon, another year, and we'll be open there. Means a great deal to our special ed population because of how we have to send kids out for their disabilities to be looked at. I think between that and the new Squantum School, so new school is going to take up some of our time on the school committee. I currently sit on the Squantum planning team. We've met a few times already. The staff has met a few times already. And so those are two more ventures that are coming up. Another issue I think is important is equity in all our schools. We have to make sure that in every building we're doing the same thing in terms of our curriculum, in terms of what we offer to students. We currently have a situation where our fifth grades in some of the schools are moved out of their elementary schools for room's sake. I'm hoping that in the future we can address those needs building-wise. I know that the city has purchased St. Mary's, not to say that that's what it's going to be used for at this point, but it's an option.
Yeah. Okay.
Staying ahead of issues in our facilities is important instead of reacting to things that break. I know that the mayor's department under Paul Hines is doing just that, making sure we're not going to have something happen when we could have prevented it. At each of the-
facilities-wise, you
Yeah,
mean?
facilities-wise. So those are all things that are current, being discussed.
Yep.
And come the first week in September, we dive into them.
Sure.
Yeah.
Talk a bit about the budget, if you can, the new budget for, for the school department.
Yeah, well, as you know, it's like $137 million
Right.
worth of funding. And, that's why I say during the negotiations times, it's tough. You want your workers to get the best deal that they can get. However, we also represent taxpayers. There's only so much in the pie. So sitting on those negotiation teams and making sure that we have a budget that we can survive with is important. And that takes a lot of going back and forth. So the contracts that when you negotiate are important to that budget because, as you know, probably the biggest piece of that pie, it could be upwards of 80% is salary.
Yes.
And so that's basically what happens.
Yeah. Did the outside mediation help reach an
Yeah,
agreement?
we sat with a couple of sessions with them, but there needs to be a better approach, an approach that's different than teachers starting where we can't get to, and then the city may be offering less than what we might be able to less.
Okay.
Something has to happen to stop that negotiation process because, it gets to the point where you're really asking for ridiculous things that we can't fund. And it takes time. It takes too much time. The mediators did help in a way. They did bring reality to the session. We were stuck on a couple of points, one being the grade book. Now that teachers have to open up their grade book,
Yes.
that's a great thing for parents, and
Okay.
I'm happy to see that the teachers were willing to do that. The other thing was maternity leave.
Yep.
And, there's a cost to everything because when you do take maternity leave, you have to hire somebody to take that person's place. So there is a cost to it.
Sure.
However, we came up with a pretty good deal where teachers can use their sick days. That's all well and good unless you're a new teacher.
Right.
Although we thought of, during the negotiation sessions with our mediator, we thought of a way we could do that. We gave them credit so that when they do have their days, they'll be able to take away days. So
Okay.
that helped solve the contract as
Okay.
well.
In terms of staffing, how
Yeah.
how is the school system
Yeah, Quincy Public
situated?
Schools does okay in getting staff,
Yeah.
but like I said, I would like to see it more reflective of our student population.
Right.
To do that, Kim has to go out and try to seek ways to get those people to apply
Okay.
that reflect our kids. But I think Superintendent Mulvey, department heads at the high school, Aaron Perkins, have been very busy making sure that all those seats are filled.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned the Cristofaro Early Learning Center. So I believe the mayor said that's probably about a year and a half away
That's
still.
correct.
Yeah. How will you determine what students are eligible?
Yeah,
to
well,
go
right
there?
now, we have many students that might have a learning disability where we have to send them elsewhere because the city cannot provide the service to correct or to assist that disability. That could be upwards of $80,000 to $100,000 when you place those kids in those private placements. And so what we have to do
Per student?
per student,
Okay.
including transportation
Oh, wow.
costs.
Okay.
Not to mention the kids have to get on a bus at 6 o'clock in the morning and they don't come home till 6 at night if they're
Right.
taking part in an after-school activity.
Yeah. And all ages, right?
All
Mostly?
ages, yeah. So now we'll be able to handle some of those disabilities right here in our hometown, which is a great thing for parents. They don't have to put their kids on a bus. It saves in the expense of sending them to private placements. And it's great to have our kids take advantage of something that we can provide.
Yeah, but how will you staff the new Early
Yeah,
Learning
well,
Center? Yeah.
they're talking about that right now.
Okay.
The programs that we have to offer have to reflect the kids within our student population.
Right.
And then from there, you'll design the program and the staffing.
Okay, but it's
Yeah.
specialized education, right? Specialized
correct.
folks
Yeah.
that need to teach
Yes.
these kids. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is there funding for that?
there is now.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, we get federal funding as well as state funding for all our programs, and that's included in the budget. However, the transportation cost and the private placement cost outside always threw us for a loop. You get new families that move in, and all of a sudden you're providing another $100,000
I see.
because the student needed a service.
Okay.
So there's always that funding issue.
Yeah. So that part of it will be saved, right?
Hopefully.
The transportation.
Hopefully. Parents don't have to accept that either.
Right.
They want to accept what's best for their child, and hopefully
okay.
that will be the Quincy choice.
Okay, so it is optional.
It is optional.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Sorry to interrupt. What else?
That's okay. Yeah. So, Yeah, that I think between that and making sure our buildings are safe, and our kids are safe, and everybody's learning. New professional development always is an issue. Kids are becoming quite good at dealing with Chromebook learning.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even our textbooks, hopefully someday, we won't have to be carrying textbooks as everything becomes online.
Wow. There was a cell phone ban, if you will, that was instituted. Do you
Yeah.
think it's working?
I haven't heard anything other than it's been working.
Okay.
I think our high school principals can attest to having it done. I know even when I was principal at Quincy High, and we're talking way back in 2013, cell phones were an issue then. I mean, it's become a very important part of our lives, as it is for students, but so is in education. And so you have to make sure that they're separated and doesn't interfere.
Yep.
So having it in places where it doesn't matter, that's okay.
It's working. Yeah.
But if it's while you're in a classroom, while a teacher's talking, or if it's during something where you should be listening or paying attention, that's not a good thing.
Sure.
I don't know where the state is going on this, too. There's rumblings.
They don't either.
Yeah, there's rumblings of something coming down from
Yes,
the
as a matter of
state.
fact, Quincy was mentioned in those discussions as
Yeah.
being one of the first to kind of take the lead in that area.
Yeah.
So maybe they're looking at the city and seeing how it's working out before
Yeah.
the state makes a ruling.
But that's
on that.
coming down, too.
Yeah. What about learning loss because of the pandemic, Frank?
Yeah,
Should we
not
know
just
about that?
learning loss, but social and emotional issues. Some of
Right.
these kids hadn't been in school in 2 years.
Yep.
So what you're thinking about, it's, you take a child that is going to enter the second grade without having come into school. I mean, there are issues that have to be dealt with.
Right. This
I think
is
the
the first day of
social-
school, essentially,
yeah,
right?
the social and emotional thing for students who are not ready, classroom ready, is an issue. I always thought that maybe there should be a special program on a daily basis for kids who aren't ready to handle something that's going on within the classroom.
I remember you talking about this.
Yeah,
Yeah, it actually has a name, does it not?
Yeah,
It's-
well, it could be many different
Okay.
names. But I know at the high school, when I was there, we tried to do that. We tried to identify kids that hadn't passed anything right through the 8th grade. And,
Yes.
it was, we need some place for these kids rather than just releasing them into a population of 1,600 kids. It would be good for them to be able to be classroom ready and to teach them to get there. Although now, because of the pandemic, there are many situations where kids were not used to being with each other. Everything was on the phone, social Zooming, and being with someone, communicating was not something they were used to.
No, right. That's
So-
not a skill they were able to
No.
develop. Yeah.
So and I'm sure that's not just going to disappear. I think it's going to take time, and it's going to take people within our guidance department, maybe some additional social and emotional people.
Yep.
So
The comprehensive testing, is that something that
yeah, I'm
needs to be
still
changed?
waiting to hear that from the state as
Okay.
well. I don't know where the MCAS is going.
Right.
There's rumblings about that at the
Yes.
state level as well.
Okay.
But you know what? Our kids do pretty well. And we were rated number 1 in New England as a city to live in.
Yes.
16 nationwide.
Yep.
A lot of that had to do with our school system. You sit at graduation and you see those kids going off to some good schools, and you see the end result as you sit there. It's just our kids do well,
Yeah.
as do our hardworking staff.
So, I mean, it sounds like you still have a passion for this. This is why you want to serve another
Yeah.
4 years.
Yeah, 50 years now, over 50 years in public
Oh,
education.
so you were 10 when you started.
Yeah, at 3 different public schools. I was in Boston,
Yeah.
then Brookline, then came back to Quincy. Always lived in Quincy, except for a few short years of trying something different. But went K to 12, went to Quincy College. My children, my grandchildren, all went through the Quincy Public Schools. That combined with my knowledge of public education as a classroom teacher and administrator, I saw things the way they should be done and the way they shouldn't be done, and I think I can bring a lot to the table that way, as well as my board of partnerships and affiliations. So
All right.
I still have something to offer, Joe.
Sounds that way. Anything else you'd like to share with folks right now?
No, just that hopefully I'll gain one of, people have 3 votes for school
That's
committee.
right.
I'm only asking for one of them, and hopefully you'll allow me to continue on what my passion is and offer what I have to offer to keep us a number 1 rated school system.
All right. Well, thanks for stopping by and talking with us, and we wish you the best.
Thank you, Joe. I
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it.
And thank you for watching us here at AM Quincy. I'm Joe Catalano. We will see you next time.